Let's see the collection hierarchy, and as well as we are going to understand about the first collection class. So if you see the hierarchy of the collection, so at the top there is a interface called connection, and this interface has been extended to the interface called list, queue, dequeue, as well as set. And this list interface has been implemented by the class called ArrayList, linked list, vector. So in our early or initial videos, we are going to see about this array list as well as the linked list, and rest of the classes we will be seeing in the subsequent videos. So let's start learning about this array list and the linked list. So, what is the array list? Okay, or what are the characteristics of the array list? So, array list is a class. Okay, so here you can see that these are the few characteristics of the array list, like that it can contain the duplicate elements, right? The second one is that it maintains the insertion order. So, in whichever order that you will add element to the array list, right? It is going to be preserved. Okay. The third one, that the ArrayList class is non-synchronized. That means that if you are using this ArrayList object with the like a thread, at that time that multiple thread can simultaneously access or call the methods of the ArrayList. That is the meaning of non-synchronized. Next one is that it allows the random access like the array we use. Okay, because it array list is basically that uses the array inside it, so that it has implemented all its function with the help of array, so we can access the element of the array list with the help of index. That is possible. And in the array list, manipulation is little bit slower than the linked list. This is the difference between the array list and the linked list, because a lot of shifting needs to occur if element is removed from the array list. So here what happens, that the array list is basically implemented as an array, and as we know, the limitation of the array is that its size is fixed, whereas in the case of array list, its size is not fixed, that it can have the dynamic number of element. So if you add the element, that means its size would be increased. If you remove the element, then its size could be decreased, right? So that is possible with the array list, but that is not true for the array. So as that array list uses the array behind the scene, that it required to remove and create a new array every time, and that's why the manipulation is always slower compared to the linked list. Let's see the example of the array list. So here you can see, to add or remove element from the array list, how can we do that? So consider that we have the object of array list like this, that array list, and the type of this array list is a string. This is the generic type. Okay, so array list string, and the reference is what? Items is equal to new array list. This is how we can create the array list, right? Now to add the element to this array list, we can use the method called add. So here on this line, I'm using a method that is add method, and adding item 1 to this array list, and after that I'm adding item 2 to the array list. And after that, if I will do system.out.println and items, okay, so what this item would be having at that time? So it would be having two elements, like item 1 comma item 2, like this. Okay, and then if we add item 3 to the array list, and we'll try to print it. Okay, what we are going to have in the array list now? So we are going to have now three items, like item 1, item 2, and item 3. Now suppose if we want to remove the element, so what I can do, I have two different ways to remove the element from the array list. Either I can use the remove method with the index, or I can remove the element with the help of that particular element name. So here that item 3 is there. Okay, so I can use this method, or whenever this method would be called, at that time this item would be removed. Okay, when this remove 0 would be called, at that time item 1 would be removed. Okay, so when this statement would be executed, the system.out.println items, after removing 0, the array list would be having only two elements, that is the item 2 and item 3, because item 1 we have removed. Why? Because item 1 is having index 0, item 2 is having index 1, and item 3 is having index 2. Okay, so here guys, you should like try to relate with the characteristic, like it preserves the order, like that first we have added item 1 followed by item 2. Okay, so that order is getting preserved over here. Okay, so and finally that when we remove this item 3, and if we will try to print the array list, then it is going to have only one item over here. Okay, so this is how we can add and remove the elements to the array list. Next one is that how we can add and change the items in the array list. Okay, change means updating the element in the array list. So again we have created the new array list. Okay, as same as the earlier example. Then what I'm doing, that I'm adding item 3 followed by item 2, and if I will try to print it, okay, what it will print, it will print the item 3 and item 2 in the list, right? So the order is what, item 3 followed by item 2. Why it is so? Because I have added the item in that way, okay, or in that order, right? Then if I want to add item 1 at the first location, or what should I say, at the 0th index, okay, so at that time what I can do, that I can use an overloaded version of the add method, which says that the first argument could be the index where you want to insert the new item, followed by that particular item type. So here it is a string type, so that is what we have specified over here. So what will happen over here, that whatever items are already there, all would be shifted by one index. Like here, that initially item 3 is having index 0, so now it is going to become 1, and for item 2 it is going to become index 2. Okay, and this item 1 would be added at the front, right? So here we are explicitly changing the order, and to change the order, we insertion order, we use this particular method. Okay, so when this will be printed, at that time it will look like this, that item 1 comma item 3 comma item 2. Now later on, if you realize that you have placed at wrong place, you have wrongly placed this item 3 at this location, it should be there at the index 2, and item 2 should be there at index 1. Okay, how can we set that? So for that we can use a method called set method, right? So set with the index, right? So what it does, that it change that particular item at this particular index. Okay, so guys, you should find out, sorry, you should keep this in mind, the difference between add and set. Add insert the element, whereas the set replace the element. So here, that the whatever item is there at the index 1, that would be replaced by item 2, and whatever item is there at the index 2, that would be replaced by item 3. And after that, if you will try to print the items, right? Okay, what is going to it going to print? It will print item 1, item 2, and item 3. Now how can we construct the array list? There are different ways to create the array list, right? One way we have already seen like this, that we can create the array list like this. As the array list is a subclass of list, I can specify the reference of list, right? It is not a subclass, but it is implementing the list interface. That's why I can mention it like this. Okay, so you can see the first one, that is the array list. Okay, that construct an empty list with initial capacity of 10. Okay, so by default the capacity of array list is how much? 10. Okay, another way is that you can create the array list from the existing array list. Here you can see we have used the method, that is as list method of the arrays class, which is a static method of the arrays class, and we have specified the integer elements like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, and that is what we are assigning to this newly created array list. So that here what we have done, we have not just created the array list, but we have initialized the array list. Okay, in the last example says that you can call the constructor by specifying the initial capacity. As we have seen that the initial capacity is 10, but if you want to create the array list with the 20, right? So later on, your backend does not require to recreate the array list for you whenever you will add the items more than 10. Okay. So here initially you are mentioning that I'm going to have the 20 elements. So let me have the array list of 20 elements. So this is how you can specify the array list with the initial capacity of 20 elements.